in the occupied territories of the Soviet Union, the local population was utterly powerless, a fact known to all. But the most horrific ordeal fell upon the women. For the Nazis, a woman wasn't just a person. She represented a purely carnal obsession. Why wait in line at a stationary or mobile pleasure house when you could take what you wanted for free? And long before the invasion of the Soviet Union, Hitler himself had essentially given his soldiers free rein to do whatever they pleased on conquered lands. So that's exactly what they did. Brothel slaves. Many young women were dragged into these houses of pleasure against their will, with little to no choice offered. Such offers, impossible to refuse, were extended only to attractive young girls. In essence, the work of these unwilling slaves was the cruelest form of torture. On one side, their bodies were ravaged by the Germans. On the other, beyond the brothel's walls, they faced the scorn and hatred of their own people. Everyone assumed that only volunteers would stoop to serving the enemy in such places. As a result, these tragic women often descended into madness or took their own lives. Girls could also be lured in by deceit, promised jobs as waitresses, cooks, or the like, only to face the same brutal demands upon arrival. One documented case tells of a girl named Olga who escaped from a brothel in Gomel and fled to a partisan unit. She revealed that she was about to be shipped off to Germany. But just before departure, a group of Germans selected the most beautiful girls, declared it a great honor to serve the Reich soldiers. Sadly, after the territories were liberated, no one bothered to distinguish between those who went willingly and those forced into it. The same damning label, Nazi whore, was slapped on all of them, sealing a fate that was usually heartbreakingly grim. Violence even worse than the brothels. Atrocities far more savage unfolded as German troops stormed into cities and villages, during patrols, rest periods, and especially in rear area hospitals scattered across the occupied zones. Countless documents attest that the first waves of brutal violence erupted immediately after capturing a settlement, fresh from the adrenaline of battle. Soldiers crave release, and any woman in sight could become a victim. Shockingly, the victims' ages meant nothing. Girls as young as children or women in their 70s were targeted with equal savagery. For instance, in a village in Moscow's Ostrinsky district, 25 Nazis raped and then murdered an unidentified young woman. In Moldova, records confirmed two utterly barbaric cases. One involved raping a little girl, the other a 75-year-old woman. And even after the assault, the victim's torment often didn't end. After Rostov's liberation, local resident Radchenko shared a chilling tale about a neighbor girl, a stunning beauty with golden braids coiled in a bun at the nape of her neck. One day, as she walked down the street, 5 or 6 drunken Germans spotted her. Giggling and pointing, they surrounded her, dragged her into a courtyard. She screamed, fought at first, then went silent. They left her there, half-dressed, slumped against the wall, sobbing endlessly. Later, she was deported to Germany for forced labor. These horrors struck at any hour of the day. If a woman crossed paths with a pack of Nazis, violence was almost inevitable, and she was lucky if that was all. During punitive raids, especially in partisan strongholds, the brutality became routine. Locals recalled how, upon entering a village, the Punisher's first task was hunting for pretty girls. In one Vitebsk village, they raped a girl right on the cemetery grounds, then killed her, stuffing a candy into her open mouth as a final mockery, a detail etched in official records. The level of savagery toward women in the occupied Soviet lands was so extreme that some cases even surfaced at the Nuremberg trials. Allied judges sometimes flat-out refused to believe such monstrosities could happen. Take 16-year-old Mechikova. Soldiers hauled her into the woods on an officer's orders. Later, other women led into the same forest, found her nailed to a tree by wooden planks. The Soviet delegation could have recited such horrors for days, if not months. The Nazis had a twisted ritual. After raping a victim, alive or dead, they'd often mutilate her by cutting off her breasts. In a Smolensk village called Snorky, they gang-raped Anna Gvartseva, sliced off both her breasts, and shot her. 19-year-old Anna Matyaskina from Saltanovka in Oral Oblast endured something even more nightmarish. In Chervinsky Luki, Leningrad Oblast, rape women were bayoneted, then doused with freezing water in the sub-zero cold, frozen into grotesque ice statues as a macabre spectacle, perhaps the pinnacle of Nazi madness played out in Masleno, Moscow Oblast. Before retreating, the Germans raped the women, carved up their faces, and executed them. Hearing this, it's no wonder many women chose outright death over such soul-crushing degradation. Torture without honor, inevitably ending in the grave anyway. Sometimes, even the Nazis cracked under the strain. In a Rostov Oblast village, a 2-year-old began crying in his mother's arms. A drunken soldier hurled the child into a stove, doused him with gasoline, and set him ablaze, right before forcing the horror-struck mother to watch. Forced cohabitation. This evil took another form. Coercion into living together. German officers or NCOs would threaten women and girls into becoming their personal concubines. The bribes varied. Threats to ship entire families to death camps, or promises of food to stave off starvation. In reality, it was a devil's bargain. To save their loved ones from famine, execution, or the camps, many mothers branded themselves Nazi whores in the eyes of society. All 3 threats led to death, but this desperate act brought fleeting mercy. Women often took this path to shield their families from roving packs of blood-maddened soldiers. What we've uncovered so far offers grim justification for such heartbreaking choices. Concentration camps. There's a myth that camps mainly held female partisans or soldiers. Not true. Across the Soviet Union, women's camps brimmed with civilian women and girls, rounded up for any reason, from mere suspicion of aiding partisans to the whim of a cop or officer. What happened inside was a hellish distillation of every atrocity mentioned: brothels reserved for guards, savage beatings, dog attacks, and whatever depraved schemes the Nazis and their collaborators could conjure from their fevered minds. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see more videos from us.